We've had too much fun. Your daughter got me into learning all about the St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church. And I got to just right up front tell you why I have an interest. One, your daughter asked. Two, my mother lived on 48 Chapman, right across the street. So she grew up with the Constantines and that whole family.
So you know everybody.
I know
pretty
a lot.
much.
Not pretty much. So all part of that world, and I heard a lot about the church, some of its folks during my early years. And then of course to stumble onto a guy like you early on in my legal career, it doesn't get any better than that.
Really?
So here we are many years later.
So you're part of those St. Nicholas.
I'm part of it.
He really is, George.
And I used to, there's stories that as people are talking, they oh, I remember this, that played baseball, with and against St. Nick's guys, Donnie Deppis and all of that crew. And there was a pitcher, and I'm really struggling with his name. He pitched for St. Nick's softball team, and he always had a pipe. And I think he had a club foot. I want to think there was some disability. And I can't remember his name, and I've been struggling.
No, I don't remember him either.
Anyways, but I remember at the end he had a pipe. He'd smoke a pipe. An athlete. Here's a picture.
She knows.
And then he hurt himself.
Pardon?
He had a limp.
Yeah, he had a limp. Yeah. He had a limp. He's a pitcher. I want to say it's a Saros or something like that, but I'm not sure.
George?
Oh, yeah, George.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Smoked pipe.
Yeah.
It was the nicest guy, but he would be the pitcher for
Yeah.
the St. Nick's team. And it was fast pitch.
Nice and loud.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, I can sleep better tonight. We've solved that issue. I've been really struggling with that at my advanced age, So George, what did your mom and dad do for a living? Where your family members?
I came from a big family. I'm the ninth, the youngest one. Back in 45, I was born, and then 48, we had to move from the village that I was born because there was a civil war, and we went to another village that the government put us up under a tent, and we lived all 11 of us under a tent for about a year. And then they built barracks, and they gave us one big room, and we all lived in there. And my oldest brother got married, and we all lived in the same room for quite a few years.
Now, was your dad, what did he do for a living?
We were farmers.
Farmers? Did he get caught up in the World War II? Was he part of the army at all?
No. He left, he was born in Asia Minor, and he left in 1922 with the Exodus from Pondo, and they came to Greece. He was only 12, 13 at the time. And then the government gave us some land, and we cultivated the land.
What kind of farming did your family do?
Mostly raising corn, and we had some cows, and we lived off the farm.
Yeah.
And chicken and pigs. And
your village is in the northeastern part of Greece, correct?
Yep.
Not far from Turkey?
2.5 hours from Turkey, and about 2 hours that's east, and then 2 hours from Salonic.
Okay. And the weather up there is very different, so you can grow the corn and grow the cattle.
Yeah.
Than it is down in the southern part of Greece, where
It
it's
is.
very hot.
It is.
Okay.
And your mother was having children, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but she worked.
Didn't
The
she?
farm, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Holy cow. What made the family consider leaving Greece? What was a precipitating factor that said maybe we should move?
Not the whole family didn't leave.
Okay.
My 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth in a row brother, after he got out of the army, he met a girl that lived in Canada for a long time, and she was in Greece, and they fell in love and they got married, and he emigrated to Canada, Toronto, Canada. And then 2 of my brothers and my sister followed. And then my other sister followed too. And then I went. I was the last one to go to Canada.
You were the youngest.
So what did your mom and dad think of this?
Well, they were hard and broken, but there was not enough to do in Greece, so we had to leave
So George
for a
gets up.
better life.
Yeah. So George goes to Canada, and you're in Toronto area.
Toronto.
George, what year was that?
64.
64.
Right after I graduated high school.
Okay.
So you go over there. You graduate from high school. You're in Toronto. Did you have to get a job?
Of course. Worked in a restaurant. My first job was at a soda fountain counter in a restaurant, Jewish restaurant. And then a few weeks later, they put me on the floor as a waiter. And I worked later on when I was going to school part-time. And then full-time as a waiter.
Let me ask a little bit about your religion. Greek Orthodox. Did your family practice the Greek Orthodox religion in Greece?
Of course they did. Yeah. We were all raised with within the church.
Church. And was there where was the closest parish church to where you lived?
St. Demetrius,
Okay. How far was that?
right in the village.
Okay, right
Yeah,
there.
yeah, we just walked to the church.
Gotcha. And then when you came to Toronto, was there an active Greek Orthodox church there?
Quite a few of them. There was St. George, St. Mary, Panagias, St. John.
And while you're waiting as a waiter in Toronto, I heard a story from your wife about your paths crossed there.
Yeah.
How did that work from your perspective? I heard her story. I want to hear your story.
How did it work? I think I was blessed that she came along and we met, and it was like we knew each other for a long time, and it didn't take long to get married. We met in Labor Day weekend, and we got married in May.
So how did you set up? What was the first meeting? How did that work? When you first laid eyes on her?
See you later, and that night after work we went to the Buzuka, and we embraced each other, and it was like we knew each other, and it just happened.
Now, what was the term you used? You went to a
Buzuka. That's the Buzuki place. That's an entertainment that they play Greek music and dance and have a good time.
So were you a dancing machine then?
Yes,
As was.
as I was from, when I was little, and Kathy was the same too, so we had something in common.
Well, you've always amazed me with your dexterity, and you passed it along to your family members. So Kathy, same way. They like.
Yeah.
So you met Labor Day. You get married the following May. Then what did you decide to do? What was the decision? Because you're in Canada, right? You're in Toronto.
Yeah, well, when I first came to Jamestown, I liked Jamestown. That was in October of 1970, and I liked Jamestown. And then when we decided to get married, I said I'll move to Jamestown, and I'm glad I did.
What did you know? What impressed you about coming to Jamestown?
I was walking the streets and people said hi,
And you didn't know them.
and I didn't know them.
Yeah.
And small city works for me. I like Toronto. I like big cities, but not to live there. I don't want to waste time on commuting and traffic, and this is fine.
So you're 1970. You come to Jamestown.
To a dance,
Pardon?
a Greek dance.
Greek dance.
That was sponsored by the church.
Yeah,
And
Balkan dance.
Balkan dance. We talked about that. Yeah. What was the Balkan dance?
A dance that the community, the Greek community, held every year in October. And they had entertainment and dinner and dance and good time.
Was the community invited? The whole community was invited to
Yes,
this, not just the
no,
Greek church.
the whole community, even outsiders.
So in 19...
Just like the Yesu Festival.
Yeah. So in 1970, when that's occurring, the Balkan dance there, was the... So the St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church itself, that had been built by then, hadn't it?
Oh yes,
The new church?
yeah.
You were,
That was built in 1965.
okay. So you weren't part of the decision-making
No,
regarding that. So you come... Did you notice anything different in the liturgy or the church service that they did here in Jamestown as opposed to what you're used to back in Greece or in Toronto?
well, here there was more English because there are not as many Greeks. But if you go to Toronto to a Greek church, most of the people don't speak a lot of English, so there was a lot more Greek. Attendance. This is a small community. You go to a church up in Toronto during Easter or Christmas, you can't get in the church because there are so many people. Here we're lucky if we fill up half of the church.
When you came here in 1970, I've heard about how the old church services, the guys would go one side, maybe to the left, the ladies to the right. Do you still do that?
No.
No. So it's
No,
integrated?
even back in 1970 when I came, we didn't do that.
That may have shifted when we got the new church. But
Probably.
In the old church.
In the old
yes.
church, yeah.
Who was the father or the priest when you came here in 1970?
Father Alexon,
Alexon?
a tall guy,
Was he?
he's the one that married us.
Okay. I remember.
And then Alexon, how long was he here?
I can't exactly remember, but I think after we got married, he was probably around 3 years.
Okay. And then who came after him?
I think it's Father Bakalis, and then Father Machaleras, and then Father Nick for 25 years.
Excuse me. We had a Father Kalutzos. Was
Not,
that before you?
yeah,
Okay. And then we had another priest from Cyprus.
Yeah, that was before me too.
Okay.
He had one from Ethiopia too.
Oh, yes.
So, as you're so visible, George, in the community, was there any encouragement of the fathers, the priests, to be out into the community, or just simply sort of work within the Greek/Albanian church community? You know, just being out there in the Jamestown area. Father Nick, he was unbelievable. He was out there. But before that, was there any encouragement by the congregation saying, we need to be better known, or we have to, you guys, be part of the community?
I don't recall it.
Okay. Some churches, like to do that. Some churches don't encourage their priests to get out. I know, certainly as I've been through the community, Father Nick is who most everybody would know because he was so active. And was that just his personality, or
just his personality?
Yeah. Do you think let me go back, George? You're such a personality in the community. At what point did the church decide they wanted to open up and have a fundraising in the form of what we now know as the Yasu Festival? Give me the story of the Yasu Festival.
Well, we had, at the time, we had a president by the name Zenius.
Yes.
He came from another community. He was a car dealer, and he became the president of our church, and he wanted, along with Father Nick, to find a way of raising money instead of having bingo at the church hall. So they talked about the festival, and we all got involved, and that's when it started 36 years ago.
So it started with the idea of doing a tent or tents in front of the church.
Oh, we didn't have a hall. Yeah, tent is the easiest way to do it.
And was there models? Was there other local Greek communities in Buffalo or elsewhere which had such festivals?
There was one in Buffalo, and I went up there and I looked at their props, and I came back and I made all the props that you still see during the festival. And we put up our first festival 36 years ago.
So that first year, did you have a sense that it would be successful, or were you kind of really worried?
I wasn't worried, but I wasn't expecting as many people as other parishioners thought. And it's been steady ever since.
What's the challenge of the Yasu Festival? I mean, now it's right on the calendar, probably the most attended ethnic event in the community. But what's the challenge?
Oh, the challenge is to find a lot of volunteers to work. A few years ago, we had a lot of other people, older people, that they did all the cooking and everything. But now the young people are getting involved, and we still do it. We don't buy anything. We make everything in the church, and thank God people volunteer their time and they do it.
So, George, what's your specialty? So when they look to you, what do they look to you for?
Well, I run the festival many times. I chair the festival many times, but now is time for other people to do that, and they've been doing a good job. What I do now is I greet people and I say hi and welcome people.
And nobody better than you.
I don't know about that, but there are other people that they can carry the trays and do the cooking.
Greg, let me know.
Sure.
He gave us his whole family that works through the festival. They've picked up a lot of the jobs and the baking that the old folks used to do that are now passed on. And it really, if it wasn't for them, I'm not sure that we wouldn't have to buy things. So that's what George has given us, his family.
Well, he's a facilitator. He works
Yes.
it. He works
Yes,
it.
he does.
Yes.
Wonderful.
As far as entertainment, I know you bring in bands to that. Is there a circuit of Greek bands that are sort of out there that you use?
Well, recently we've used the same people because they know and they coordinate well with our dancers. So we've been using them and we don't have any problems. We did try quite a few of them over the years, but recently we used the Aegean duo who are very close. We don't have to pay a lot of travel time and all that, and they're from Rochester.
Do you talk about dancers, do you have classes in the church which teach Greek dancing?
Not intense classes, but we do, yeah. The kids, they practice before the festival comes, and they meet downstairs in the hall and they practice, and they do a very, very good job. I'm very, very proud of all the kids.
I can't believe how high your sons jump.
She still does it.
Jeez.
Over 40.
But that has become such a pivot point for the church. Have you seen, as far as church outreach, how do I phrase it? As far as church membership and encouraging people to come to a Christian church. I mean, not everybody in the community thinks, when they think of St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church, that they think it's a Christian church. I mean, it's just somehow something mystical that's different. Have you seen where there's others who just sort of come and start attending that aren't really initially brought up in the Greek Orthodox Church?
Not attending, but we had quite of them that they were, not a lot of them, but we had a few that they converted from whatever they believed before, and now they're chrismated and they become Greek Orthodox Christians.
How is the relationship with the Albanian church?
They're our friends. The church is the same, only a different language. They wanted to be on their own. As I said, they're our friends. We've attended their church. They attend our church many times.
Do they participate, do they participate in the Yasu festival? Is that a community event with them, or is that just St. Nick's?
No, they participate.
Do they? Yeah. I asked the question of everybody because I'm naive about that. I drive by there, and I went by there the other day, took a picture of the Albanian church, because you drive by it all the time, you never think of it. And I know some of the many people who were part of my world growing up, the Comotanes of the world, and others were the Albanian church, and then there's the St. Nick's church. Some are Albanians who go to the Greek Orthodox church.
Yeah.
And
Terry Tane he comes to our church very often. Last week he was there. He takes communion.
Yeah.
And then he went down south to visit his kids.
I saw Como just yesterday. He lives in Lakewood. As you look at the growth of the church, I mean, you became part of the St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church because of marriage. You did very well, by the way. You enhanced your esteem by marrying so well. I want you to know that. How have you seen the church change? I mean, you have a unique perspective. You're an outsider coming in, slot in 1970. Here we are almost 50 years later. How have you seen the changes?
In what way?
In the church. Membership.
Well,
liturgy.
membership is not growing because a lot of the people, God bless them, they live in they are in a different world now. But we don't have a lot of people to draw from. There are not a lot of immigrants coming here, and we just look at the young people now. This is the most we ever had. We have about 24 kids in the Sunday school, and that's a lot considering a few years ago we only had 10 of them. So those are the ones that they'll make the membership grow. But as far as getting new members, not a chance.
We met with John Regas last Friday. Last Friday?
Two Fridays ago.
Yeah, 2 Fridays. And that was fun for me. We learned about Greek hot dogs, the Wellsville, New York, Texas hots. And John spoke lovingly about his relationship with St. Nick's and how that was the mother church for all of the various Greeks, whether they're in Wellsville, Olean, etc. Is that still part of the outreach today?
It is, of course. Father Jared that we had before Father Sotirios Rusakis, he used to go to Olean once a month and gather people from Wallsville and Couderspore and Olean and all around there and have liturgy. And so does Father Rusakis. That's the outreach. And before that, a long time ago, he used to be in Bradford. With Father Bakalis, we used to go to Wallsville for Easter and have a party with all the parishioners there, especially during Easter.
What's the governance of the church? I think I've learned that you are part of the Detroit
Metropolis.
Okay, and so Detroit is part of your.
We are part of.
You are part of Detroit.
We belong to the
Metropolis. Is that like a synod? Is that the term you use, or is it a? What's the term?
Pretty much is the same thing.
Yeah. And then in the church itself, how is it run? I mean, so you've got obviously the priest who deals with the religious component, but the actual operation.
Well, we have a bishop in Detroit.
Okay.
And all the priests report to him.
Okay. And then
and they take orders from him. He tells them what is right and what is wrong, what they can do and what they can do.
And then as far as locally, do you have a president of the church corporation, and then do you have a board of directors? How does that operate?
We do. We have the parish council, and we have a president, secretary, treasurer, and members of or 9 of them altogether.
So the members of the congregation vote for their officials?
Right.
Okay.
And the officials, they make the decisions, and every year we have a general meeting that we vote, and we take up issues, whatever comes up, either building or mostly is for the building, and compensations. And
having driven by there again just yesterday, taking pictures of my mother's house, the old church, which looks like it's nice and kept. What do you use the old church for?
Mostly right now is for all the equipment and all the props that we use for the festival.
Got it.
We store it.
No other practical use? You don't hold?
No.
Nothing there?
The old church was deconsecrated.
Okay.
It was what?
They call it, the new church we consecrated.
All right.
So that one was deconsecrated because it would have been sacrilegious to just throw stuff in there on the altar.
Ah, gotcha. So there was a,
An unblessed.
At one time, the old church was sold to a surveyor, and he had it for a few years, and when he retired, he sold it back to us, and we purchased it, and we use it for storage.
was it George Demas?
No,
No, I'm just curious.
no,
Was George part of your congregation?
Jenkins, I think,
Oh, Fran Jenkins.
yeah.
Fran Jenkins, okay, yep. Was George Demas part of your church, or was he the part of the Albanian church?
He used to come to our church.
Okay, George.
His wife still comes,
Does she?
Dorothy.
Yeah. A lot of funny stories with George Demas.
Yeah,
Just before I forget, I've done some interviews, which were World War II interviews, with George and Lou Demas.
right.
They're on YouTube, and I've got probably longer interviews there. Just so you keep that in mind, that's an inventory that's out there.
Great.
So, almost 50 years into this, at the St. Nick's, what would you like to see if you looked at a crystal ball and said, 10 years from now, what would you like to see the church be doing?
That's a good question. I'm happy with what we do today. I just hope we keep it up.
And it sounds like you've got more young Sunday school members than you had previously or recently, and that's always a great sign. And
It is.
That is the sign. And it's a work in progress. All right, let me segue over into you and El Greco Woodworking. How did George Theo become El Greco Woodworking?
Now, George always wanted to be an entrepreneur. When I was in high school, I used to have the neighborhood kids work for me, either making bird cages or selling sesame sweets at weekends. It was fun. When I came here, I knew the restaurant business. I thought I opened a restaurant in Jamestown. I designed the floor plan and everything, and we talked with my wife, and then we thought if I open a restaurant, I'll never see the kids, so we decided against it. And I always liked designing and making things, so I started El Greco. We started El Greco back in 1975. That's 44 years ago.
Where were you? Where was your location?
Downtown on First Street,
So the Broadhead Mills.
the old Broadhead Mills.
So that's where you started.
In 75, and in 85 we bought the building. I used to rent from Charlie Anderson. And then in 85 we bought the whole building, and then the kids, after they graduated from school, and they work in New York and elsewhere else, one by one they came back and joined the company. And that was a blessing.
Do you realize how rare that is to have your three incredibly educated, smart children
I do.
come back?
Don't make me cry.
I know.
Well, I'm mindful of that because I have three incredibly educated children who are all over the world. But you've enticed them back when they certainly had lots of opportunities. Why do you think it is that they sought to come back?
That I really don't know. I don't want to take credit for it, but I think they made the right decision. We're close, we see each other every day, we work together, all five of us.
Now, you still have the Broadhead Mills. You still own that?
Yes,
And you also have an additional facility on...
we do, which we purchased later on, because of the terrible fire we had back in 2000. It's been so long.
Finally we're forgetting.
I remember that very distinctly. So you had to move out of there, you bought that building. What do you do down on First Street? Do you still, the storage?
No, mostly the manufacturing is still on First Street.
Ah,
Excuse me, I have to interrupt, and I apologize, George. I need to leave, and I meant to tell you that earlier. I couldn't stay.
something I said? Nice, Lynn.
No,
Just-
but I do have one question,
Sure.
George. Your English has been so good. Where did you learn your English? Because you weren't in Toronto that long. Did you take English as a young person?
I
in
did
Greece?
take some English in Greece before, during high school,
Okay.
but then I went to school in Canada, and God, 50 years later, I should be able to speak.
You speak very well. Syntax, verbs, pronouns, they're all correct, that's all. So
And it's
that's-
got
that's
just
an
enough
account.
of an accent to make it that nice Greek flavor.
The other question I had is when you first came here, and don't forget where you were, this is a question you raised with many others. How were you received as being someone with an accent here in town and navigating through the area? I know you said people were friendly.
Well,
they were-
sometimes people couldn't really understand what I said, but I had to repeat myself, but I didn't feel bad. They're worse than me somewhere else.
Okay, good.
Well, it's- again, because he married so well, he got integrated into the community. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's easier when you have a church family that you come into and go from there. All right.
All right, thank you.
Jordy?
I want to keep boring in on El Greco because I find you fascinating. So you started the business in 1975, 76,
75?
75, and your paths crossed with Bob Sharp.
Yes.
Do you remember how that happened?
No. We needed a lawyer.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know how it happened, but yeah, we chose Bob Sharp.
Because that's how I got introduced to you, was through Bob. And
He was a good man.
yeah, it was a good guy. Just passed away a couple of years ago. And so you're down there in the Broadhead Mills. Did you have any sense of the history of the building?
I was learning.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still see the stone on one of the buildings. It was built back in 1875.
And you get a sense of just a lot of history there with the Broadhead family. And I went to school with Allison Broadhead, one of the last of that era,
Mm-hmm.
Broadheads. As I recall, you had sort of a unique arrangement with Charlie. I mean, Charlie owned the building, and then you bought part of the building.
Right.
How did that work? I mean, was it difficult to have that sort of
No.
condominium effect? I forget, was there a wall in between? Was there
There is a bridge.
no bridge?
Yeah. So to access the upper floors of his building, he had to go through my building. But it worked all right. We never had any problem. He's not using the upstairs a lot, Ed.
Now, he just passed away.
I know.
And what's, is his family using the other part of the building still as a business?
Yeah, his son is running the business.
Okay. What is it?
It's still manufacturing.
Okay.
Mostly they make tanks for separating the ore with big magnets.
Big stuff.
Yeah.
Big stuff. And what do you do down on Allen Street?
Allen Street is, we purchased it with which is big, 37,000 square feet, with the idea of moving all the operation down there, but we never did it yet. But right now, or what we do down there is we manufacture parts and some assemblies on First Street. We ship them down with our truck to Allen Street, where they finish them. They put all kinds of finishes, different colors, and then they do the final assembly, pack them, and ship them.
When you started in 1976, what product did you have? What was your El Greco woodworking go-to piece of furniture?
I wasn't making furniture at the beginning. I was making little trinkets and little things for other people that they were selling them, and eventually I got into designing furniture, and it was mostly custom made, and then we started making tables and chairs and chinas and desks and for offices here in Jamestown, a lot of doctors' offices, and then we opened the showroom down on First Street on the second floor, and we sold retail. Eventually we went into selling to other dealers. Back in the 80s, we opened a store up in Buffalo too, in a mall. In a plaza. But that didn't work very well. We lost a lot of money. We came back. Then we started late 90s making juvenile furniture.
Why? Why then? Did you see that there was a market opportunity?
Well, somebody came along and promised us a lot of business if we made cribs, and that never worked, but we had a big investment. Our relationship with that guy never worked, but we had a big investment, so we pursued that market, and we found other people that would buy it, and that's how it happened. Then one day we get a call from a big company that they wanted us to make a crib. We designed a crib for them, and we made it, and then all of a sudden they wanted cases, and now we only work for them, and that's room and board.
Where are they out of?
They're headquartered in Minneapolis, Minnesota. They have about 16 stores in metropolitan areas, and they buy everything that we make.
So are you exclusively cribs at this point?
No.
Oh, no, you still do other...
Cribs is very little parted.
Okay.
We do beds, bunk beds, cases, desks, bookcases, all kinds of things.
Do you do much of the marketing online?
No, we don't do. They do the marketing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so you make it for other companies?
Yeah. For one company.
Got it. And
we call each other partner.
Perfect. Aren't you thrilled?
Oh yes.
As you
it makes life easier.
Yeah. How did they get a hold of you? Do you know the backstory behind that?
Yeah. We received a call, as I said. One of the vice presidents was down in High Point, and he was looking for a crib, and he talked to a colleague of mine down at High Point, and they gave him my number, and he called.
So you're showing down there, or at least they saw you down there, and they made a call through a referral, and then they have now not only buy your cribs, but everything.
A trailer every week.
Do they bring the trailer in, or do
No.
do you do that?
They do it.
Oh, they do that.
They send the trailer, but it's just a trailer that it doesn't have to go back empty.
Yeah. Wow. As you reflect back on that, to get to the point where you are today hasn't always been a nice, smooth like this.
Definitely not.
You've had everything going on.
If other people would have hang it up many times,
Yeah.
but my wife and I somehow stuck into it. I remember we used to have about 10 credit cards. We borrow from one, pay the other, and kept going till we secured some big loans and buy machinery and expand, and we did it. Thank God today we're debt free and all the kids work and we employ a few people.
So what's your plan now that you've gone off to Hawaii for a couple of weeks here? Do you have a sense of the succession planning of George and Kathy here?
Yeah, the kids are taking over,
Are they?
of course. They're doing a good job.
Yeah.
They're all involved.
Have they divided their duties among themselves?
Of course.
Yeah.
Dimitri is right now working with me and he's doing all the manufacturing. Laz is doing all the finishing and packing and coordinating all the shipments. Alexis is in the both marketing and all the logistics and all the ins and out of the business, the financial, and taking care of all the problems if there are any.
So 5 years from now, do you want to be sitting on a beach in Hawaii, or do you think you'll stay?
No, I don't think so. I want to go for a week, 2 weeks, but not the whole time, no. I still work,
Yeah.
and I'll be working as long as I can.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, you got to have a great sense of pride. This is
I do.
so rare to have family come back, and I know they're so, like I say, you and your wife permitted there to become the really incredibly well-educated people, and to come back here to make an influence it's a remarkable statement, George.
Thank you.
I mean that. I've seen a few come and go, and you're to be commended, and Kathy to be commended. Yeah. I say you're the lucky guy.
She deserves all the credit.
So, what's the question I should be asking you, George, that I haven't?
You asked more than I thought. I thought we were only going to talk about the church, but
Well, I have more than a casual fascination in El Greco woodworking, so I'd love to know the story. Because sometimes we, in our business, don't always know the backstory. And there's always a backstory. You know, what makes a guy like you tick and kick and oopa.
Opa. Opa.
Opa. Is it Opa?
Opa.
Oh my gosh, I've had that wrong too long. Opa. Oh, keep correcting me. I'll get it right.
OPA. Opa.
OPA. Okay, I'll remember that. Well, thank you, George. This has been special for me. I think.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I applaud your daughter for having the anticipation of their 100th anniversary. She asked, she goes, what do you think we might do? Just asked. And I said, there are so many people who have so many stories in the congregation, you should grab them. Just get the stories. Your wife's got a story. You got a story. We were with Athena Constantine earlier this week. she's got a story.
And she remembers a lot.
She remembers a lot. There was a lady down at Lutheran. Holy cow, she remembered a lot, and just a lot. I mean, it's just so. I think they're on a roll. That's what Lynn was here, because I'm not going to be able to do all the interviews, but I think to capture these stories while you can is wonderful. Because everybody's got a story.
Yeah.
Everybody got a story. George, thank you, because I know
Thank
you probably
you.
got to go back to work.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, if you need me to sign something so that Alexis is okay letting you. Where have you been, Dad? You know?